Alright, welcome back everyone. So here's my little 1/18 scale mini Losi. I don't know if you want to call it 2.0 or whatever, but this is it right here. This is a unmolested version that has not been modified or even driven just yet. This is my vehicle. It's technically unmolested. It has been driven several times now, as indicated by the wear on the rear tires, but it still retains all the factory parts. Plus I have added a bumper, and the only reason I added a bumper is because I've noticed that there's a problem with these lower control arms wearing out, and this is going to be my first replacement. And if you see something weird, I'll address that a little bit later if you haven't seen any of the previous videos. So basically what is happening is, to the best of my ability, let's see if we can get some contrast here. You can see that it wears out, right? It slams, it hits the ground, it bottoms out, and the plastic, being weaker than the aluminum, is going to take the beating, right? It's going to take the beating. And as you can tell by the front bumper there that was later added, all the hard hits, front nose landings, and the front bumper I put on to try and protect it from damaging further the lower control arms. But I don't know how well that discernible that is, but that is just my thumb stuck inside there, right? So there's a little tiny place where it has worn through. So looking for a replacement part, obviously I go to Losi. I always try to go to factory original parts first, and then I found through the comment section that RPM also makes a heavy duty one, so I did some further searching and found that the RPM version. And I'm really starting to like RPM because they're, number one, made in the United States, and it's heavy duty. Alright, so there it is. Sorry about that. So if we gently compare these two just visually, right, we'll try and butt them up together, we can see that there is a huge difference in the size and the thickness of the plastic. So we've got a much nicer part on the right side than the left side. The left side being a factory original replacement part, the right side being made in the United States by a company called RPM. There you go, hope that helps out. Let's see if there's a manufacturer on this one. Well, I'm not seeing any manufacturing. It doesn't say made in the United States. Horizon Hobby, Germany, but it doesn't say made in the United States. It doesn't say Germany. It doesn't say China. So take a guess. That one can be made anywhere that you think that can be made one. This one definitely says made in the United States, which is why it's actually visually even better. But to take it one step further, to try and prevent this error from happening again, I think it would be really nice to, like I did with my daughter, except this is a little bit different layout, is make a skid plate that protects this little part right here, this little part right here, and same on the other side. I think that's what I want to do right here, and I have a piece of weldable stainless steel right here just for that purpose. I think it will work absolutely perfect for this. So stay tuned. Alright, for you new people out there who have never taken apart a vehicle before, and you know, you can't take all knowledge for granted, right? There's a lot of us out there that have done this a million times, different vehicles, and we pretty much got a good idea. But if you've never done this before, it's really pretty easy. The first thing you want to do is remove the nut from the wheel. And Losi does supply, it may not look like this one, I don't know, I have a bunch of these things. And you're going to remove that wheel from there. If you have the aftermarket installed front bumper like I do, you're going to remove the bumper. Once you remove the bumper, you want to get yourself some pliers. Here I'm using little jewelry pliers. I like these. You can find these at just about any place in the world. And then you're going to want to grab the edge of this little lip right there. I'll show you a better view of it here in a second. But there's a little tiny nub. I'll move this out of the way. I don't know what a good view is. There we go. There's a little tiny piece. Focus down in there. I didn't want to focus down inside there. Fucking smartphones. They're not very smart, are they? Well, I guess that's as good as it's going to get. But anyway, right on the edge, right here, or this shaft, there's a little lip. Right? Try not to put any marks on the shaft itself. You're going to grab that very firmly, twist it, and pull it out. Right? So that's what you're going to do. And it's going to take a little bit of effort, but it comes out really nicely. That is a really well designed part. That's the only thing I can say so far that's really well designed. The car's been a lot of fun for the driveway use with my 8-year-old daughter and me spending time together. But Losi, I don't know, I'm really not a fan of Losi so far. They either intentionally skipped over some, for as expensive as this car is, damn near $170, it should be in much better shape than what it is. I mean, this is the brand new one I'm charging because later on I want to do a comparison. I mean, look at this. That is ridiculous. Is it a basher? No, you can't say it's a basher because when it lands on the front, it skids the plastic. It skids on the plastic and then it wears through a little pivot pin right there. So it's not a basher. Is it a racer? It can't fucking possibly be a racer because this is a lot of fucking slop. I mean, just a lot of slop. It's got potential. I just think there's a lot of corners cut. And yeah, so far I'm not a Losi fan at all. I'm not a Traxxas fan either. I got a couple of Traxxas vehicles, and it's a shame that you have to when you buy a brand new vehicle, the first thing you have to do is fucking fix it. It should not be that way. Alright, so when replacing the RPM made parts, they also supply a couple of screws. Do not use the factory original screws. Those are the ones you're looking at there. Use the screws that are supplied in the kit. They are a little bit smaller. So there is a look at the finished versus stock. It may be hard to discern that. And I'll go over something you may or may not have noticed here in a second. So why does the one on the left sit so much higher than the one on the right? I've not spent any money on aftermarket shocks or anything like that. I've only replaced the lower control arms. This is a free upgrade if you choose to do it. What you have to do is you look where the shock location is mounted. Look where it's mounted. There. And it's mounted on its furthest point here, right? So you could mount that shock on the inside here, or you can move it further down and mount it here. So you mount it here. It's going to give you the maximum amount of droop and extension, and then you're going to relocate this top portion here, and then hopefully, I cannot see it that well, but hopefully that helps somebody out in the future. It's still using all the factory original parts. You're getting more suspension travel, which in my opinion is going to lead to less failures because now the suspension has a chance to actually do what it's supposed to do, absorb bumps and impacts before the chassis hits the ground. Right? For some reason, this vehicle, it likes to land nose heavy. Say you're cruising at a steady speed, you hit a jump, it likes to land nose heavy. We can't always come to a stop and then accelerate up off of a jump and then land either on all fours, which is ideal, or land on the rears and then the fronts. It seems to like to land on the front a lot more often than not. So let me move this further away so you can get an idea how much higher that is. I'm just gonna stick, I don't know, a finger in there, wiggle it back and forth, right? Not out of frame. Alright, so we're talking about 1.5 inches of ground clearance on the chassis versus about 1 inch, right? So we gained about 1/2 inch. It didn't cost anything. Take a look at the rear side. So we're doing, in my opinion, less wear on the parts, although you have a higher center of gravity, which may allow you to roll over more easily. But if you're like me, you're not a professional racer. You drive around in your driveway, your backyard, and in reality, I can't decide what the hell Losi was designing here. Were they designing a backyard basher, or were they designing a professional carpet racer? I don't know, because if they're designing a carpet racer, again, this shit is just so fucking sloppy. This is just absolutely sloppy. And I don't know. I understand that the smaller the vehicle, the harder it is to get more precise, but my God, this is terrible. And it's no different on the new one, except the camber has changed because now it's lifted up higher, so it gives it a negative camber versus I guess you'd call it a neutral or even a positive camber, which is terrible. But so I need to adjust the turnbuckles. Next, the other option you can try without moving this is to actually turn these steering arms upside down and flip them over. What I mean by that is you're going to take this steering or this lower control arm, you're going to move it to that side, and then you're going to flip it upside down, right? So, because the reason why I say that is because the shock is only located on one side. So you're going to move it over that way, and you're going to move it over that way. That's how that's going to work. You can try that on the factory original. It might buy you some more time, but either way, as evidenced by the front bumper taking a beating here, and this was to try and protect what little meat I had left, as you can see by the grinding marks there, where it just absolutely takes a beating. I mean, that is severely distorted. It is just ground down to practically nothing. In fact, it was sliding off the pins, and as you can see right there, there might even, yeah, that's a big enough hole, right, to slide my fingernail through. So it basically rips through the pivot pins. So in the next step in the evolutionary process, I'm going to take some weldable steel right here, and then I'm going to make a protective device that overlaps this little area here, this little area here, and I'd like it to fold over on this side, the back side, the back side, and the back side. In case you're wondering where to get one of these picks, which helps you remove a pin, go to your automotive supply store, automotive parts store, and look for a pick that's got a 90-degree angle. You can use a punch and try and drive out those pins, but this works better because it gets your fingers out of the way, right? And then you can lightly tap it with a hammer, and then that little pin right there will come right out, no problem at all. And grab it with a pair of pliers, wiggle it, twist it out, and it's a done deal. But for right now, I'm going to call it quits because my daughter wants to go out racing, and that's what it is so far. Other than that, I hope you all got something out of this and have a good day. And weight bias, you know, it's a pretty neutral balance in my opinion. You got the motor, transmission in front of the rear axle, battery pack, ESC. You know, it's pretty neutral. The car handles pretty good, but it's not race quality. It's not basher quality either, because it is just where it's ridiculous that you have to fix it so fast. You know, to try and help out with that, I did have a motor out of a model I filled up with hot glue, and I hot glued it to the rear half, as you can tell there. Just hot glued it in place. It's filled with hot glue to kind of add more of a rear weight bias, so that way if it does go in the air over a jump, at least it'll land more neutral or rear, but that's not enough. So the next option is to go with a heavier front spring, leave the rear springs alone. My thought is probably hitting a jump, going under full compression and then coming up, and that's what's causing the damage right here. So front springs, stiffer front springs, probably going to be in order in the future, but I think I'm going to play around with lowering the ride height on the rear end or adding more weight on the rear end. I got a spoiler here made of ABS plastic. I think I got this at a truck stop. I think this is just a toy at a point in time I was going to use for one of my crawlers, but that rear wing with that mount right there, that's going to add a significant amount of weight to the rear end. The other thing is you come off of a jump, you land, you go into a corner, and you're off the throttle a little bit, the rear end wants to come around, right? So the front springs are soft, it's loading the front, the rear's coming up, over exaggerating, and then it makes it loose, right? So if you're driving into the corner, say you're holding the throttle, I mean it's a learning curve depending on how you like to drive, but for me it's a little it's unpredictable because the front loads down, you get all this mechanical traction on the front tires, the rear tires become light, and then it comes around, right? So I think adding more mechanical grip to the rear will balance that out, and also because the speed of the vehicle, I'm guessing it's about 10 miles an hour, you're limited. You know, you can't always accelerate off a jump and land rear or all fours. It's just not going to happen with this little tiny vehicle. Maybe get a brushless motor. I got a brushless motor. I got a couple of them in mind, but I don't want to go there just yet. I want to make it the best I can possibly make it with the parts that are from the factory. I just feel that the engineers at Losi just really didn't do a very good job at designing this. I think this is just a marketing scheme. It really wasn't designed to be a basher. It wasn't designed to be a racer. It's just slightly above toy grade. I'm not a fan so far. I'm really not a fan. It's been a lot of fun to spend time with my daughter out in the driveway, and that's about it. There's one more thing with this Losi, well, not necessarily that one or that one, but the Losi mini buggies, including the classic looking version, is the chargers are different. You would think they're the same. They look very much identical, even though they're using the same exact battery, same gears, same motor and everything, but my daughter has a classic version, and we are having a significant difference in runtime. I mean, I'm talking more than 5 minutes difference between like one. Let's just substitute this car right here for my daughter's car, just for visual reference, right? These are both Losis, same everything, except for, you know, the basic overall body. Same motor, same battery, same servo, same receiver, blah 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 blah. Same theoretical chargers. So the other thing that we've ran into is the runtime. It got so bad where I had to label the charger 2 and 2 and 1 and 1, and both of these Samsung chargers are the exact same milliamp hour rating. And what I've noticed is that charger 1 will stay charging, or showing a red light in other words, and then charger 2 will show a green light thinking that it's done. And so I'd keep a memory of whose vehicle was on what charger and how long it roughly lasted, and then I'd switch them around. I'd give that charger to that vehicle, that charger to that vehicle, and then I would have the longer runner time. Switch them back around again just to verify my results, and then she would have the longer running time. So there's a fault, and if you have just one of the Losis, you're not going to notice it because you're just going to assume it is what it is, and the charger was made perfectly and there are no problems, and they're not. But I did find another charger in my arsenal that I have on stock. I think this goes to a WL Toys product, and it's just a 2-cell LiPo charger. I plugged them both in at the same time to both of the vehicles. and they turned off within about 30 seconds of each other, right? So once a vehicle no longer moves, but you got steering action, that means the battery is dead. Plug them both in at roughly the same time within 30 seconds of each other, and then they will turn off within 30 seconds of each other. So one of these chargers, charger number 2, is defective. You may or may not have a defective charger, and you're not going to know it. So keep that in mind. And Losi is definitely on the disappointment scale. I'm not even 50% satisfied. The only thing I'm really satisfied of so far is being able to spend my time out in my driveway with my daughter. Right, that's really the only satisfaction that there really is. The tires are already wearing bad. This kind of tread pattern is not good for concrete, and it's definitely not good for dirt. So I don't know. I really don't know what the hell who they were designing this for, or what they were designing it for. My particular vehicle right here, that I'm trying to keep this one original. I have not used this one at all. This is going to be something to compare against. Raise the ride height, as you might be able to tell there. I've added some weight because the way it goes off of a ramp, it likes to land front end first, and the suspension being so soft, I'm thinking what's causing the lower control arm damage is the front end goes under full suspension compression, and it damages the lower control arm, and then the rear end finally comes up and the vehicle goes off, and then it lands, likes to land despite being visually neutrally balanced. I don't have scales to find out, but it lands predominantly on the front. The only way it doesn't land on the front is if you're close to the ramp going at a slow speed, and then you hit the throttle, and obviously you're going to have that acceleration. The weight's going to be on the rear, so the front end's going to pick up a little bit more. So I've added mechanical weight with a fake engine filled with hot glue. Now I've added a rear spoiler made out of ABS instead of this plastic duckbill type spoiler, in an effort to control how it lands and how it takes off. The other thing is when you let off throttle, the rear end likes to come around, so hopefully adding a little more mechanical grip to the rear will solve that problem. If this doesn't solve the problem, then I'm going to go stiffer front springs. That's the only other option. Or I lower the rear end. Since I've raised that vehicle up, I can lower the rear end down to the height of the factory original. That will give more rear weight bias. So there's a bunch of different ways to achieve your driving style. Some of you may like it the way it is. If you had a brushless motor system in here, you can probably not even worry about it. Hit the throttle, give it that little extra boost, and since you got more RPMs, you can manipulate that, how it lands and how it jumps, and you know, it's just going to be so much better. And that's probably going to be the next step, is adding a brushless system to mine. And you can do it cheaper than what you buy the pre-made one for, I promise you. But other than that, hope you all got some out of that. Sorry it's been an extremely long video. I can break it down into several videos, and then YouTube will say that you customer A or YouTuber A put up 10 videos today, and really, I don't know, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But I'm really loving RPM. RPM has just been, I never heard of RPM until I got a Losi. So RPM has been absolutely fantastic in the aftermarket supply of parts, high quality parts. I think I'm going to try and do more business with them, see what other kind of parts they have available, see if they match any of my other vehicles. If not, well, it is what I guess I'll be stuck with Losi. But other than that, hope you all have a good day.